Hey everyone, Jason Amoroso, founder of Revelation Breathwork, and welcome to Facilitator Stories. In each episode, we will be highlighting a grad of our training who has brought Revelation Breathwork to the world. We will look at their journey into really answering the call and becoming a facilitator of healing, what that means to them, how this work supports both their personal and professional life, and a lot of cool stories along the way. Really excited for this series. We have so many amazing grads all over the world, all different professions that are using this work. And so I want to share it with you. It's so inspiring. Today is our first guest who is a teacher since the beginning in the last 4 years in our online Revelation Breathwork spiritual community. And she's incredible. And this interview is so amazing. It is absolutely worth your time. The whole thing beginning to end. Carolene is incredible. So that's our guest, Carolene Joy King. A little bit about her bio. She's an educator and a Revelation Breathwork facilitator based out of Escondido, California. She's a poet, a playwright, and an activist committed to envisioning and building a world of true social justice. A proud Panay, Carolene's play Too Much Skin, which focuses on assimilation, dismantling white supremacy culture and sexism by highlighting a relationship between a Filipino-American brother and sister, premiered in Hollywood in 2022 to critical acclaim, and a feature in Broadway World. Carolene's collection of poetry in the book Tend received a warm reception and continues to impact readers who choose to pick up her words. You're going to love her. You're going to love this conversation, and we'll see you on the other side. All right. Well, I am here with Carolene Joy King, and so excited and honored to be here with you. Thanks for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here and so excited to be with you and so excited to be talking about breathwork.
Yeah, you have been with us since the beginning of our community online since I think it was September of 2021. And yeah, you've been just a rock in the community for all the people that have been in and out of the community and all the amazing work that you've done. And so I'm excited for your perspective on this. So let's dive in. What was your first, if you remember, what was your first experience with Revelation Breathwork like?
How can I forget? How can I forget the first experience? It was during COVID, and I remember, and I was working, I think, 5 jobs at the time. Like, I was teaching high school English, I was working at a magic shop, I was working for a murder mystery company, I had this little side project that I was doing with the Asian Story Theater, and then I was writing. And when COVID happened and the quarantine happened, everything just shut down, and so the only thing that I was doing was teaching high school English online and going, what do I do with the rest of my time? Like, and feeling so uncomfortable with the amount of space in my life because I had filled my life up with so much. Lots of things I love, but in many ways, now that I am here on this side of my life, in many ways, like I was filling up space in my life so that I didn't have to face my own things. I didn't have to sit with myself. And so one day I saw that there was a free session of breath work that was online, and like me, I'm trying to fill up my time, and I go, all right, breath work, I could do that. I'll do that. I'll do anything once. Like, I know how to breathe. Like, I'll do that. And I
I'm gonna slow
log
you down
in
for a
with
second.
you.
So, like, how did you? Because I'm curious. Like, did you see an ad? Did you see a post? Were you already into like meditation or wellness or breathing? Like, what about that? Were you like, oh, that? Yeah. What was intriguing about it to you?
I was doing the Manifestation Babe Academy with Catherine Zankina, and she had been talking about it. And she had said, there's a free session, and she had like had she talked about how powerful it was for her and referenced her social media all to Revelation. And so it was through her that I found you and found
Nice. We got
Revelation.
to have her on as a guest too, because she's been
Yeah,
through our
she's
training as
amazing.
well.
Yeah. And I was doing MBA at that time too for a similar reason. I was filling up my time because I had finally had the time. And so I went in and did this session with you. And I was living with a bunch of roommates at the time. And I remember during the primal scream, everyone was like, "Hey, what happened in there?" When I came back out, and I was like my whole life has changed. Like that's what happened in there right now. And I remember seeing this young version of myself, like this kid version of myself, and she walked up to me and said, "Do you love me?" And I said, "Of course I love you. Why would you ask me that?" And she said, "Then why do you keep me busy all the time? I never have time to play. And why are you always yelling at me?" And when
Wow.
I got out of that first session, I threw out my post-it covered calendar. And I made a promise to myself that I would never talk to myself in a way I wouldn't talk to a young child. And so now, if ever thoughts come up in my mind that are like, oh my God, that was so stupid, I would be like, I would never say that to a kid. Why why am I saying it to myself right now? That is not my voice. I will not say it to myself anymore. Ever since that first session, I've been able to tease apart those voices. And it really has been a pivotal, life-changing experience for me. While I still have a tendency to fill up my time, I'm not even anywhere close to what it used to be.
Wow. And so did you that's incredible, and that's been my experience and the experience of you and so many other people where it's like literally one session can change your life. It can change the way that you see yourself, the world. You can have experiences that change the course of everything. So I think that's really amazing. And then what happened after that? Like, how did that go to, oh, I want to facilitate this work for others? Was that well after the pandemic or the lockdown, or how'd that go?
That was also after the first session. Like after the first session and experiencing how what I experienced in that first session, I was like, I need to know everything there is to know about this. And it wasn't even necessarily a me wanting to facilitate for anyone else at that point. It was a me wanting to understand my own experience more deeply. And so when the facilitator training came up, I was like, I need to understand this more. I need to understand what happened, like what else is inside me that I don't know, what else is inside me that I haven't given space or time to discover or to meet. And so the facilitator training just made sense for me in terms of my own self-discovery. And I actually remember in one of the first breakout rooms with somebody, there was a question of why are you here? And I remember answering, I don't know. I don't actually know. And the other person was like a coach and was adding to her toolkit of things that she was offering. And she was like, I want to offer this to my clients. And I was like, I am a high school English teacher. I don't actually know why I'm here other than I felt like I needed to know and understand this more deeply. And so I wasn't thinking about it in any sort of business sense. I wasn't thinking about it in any sort of I'm going to facilitate for other people. I signed up for the facilitator training because I wanted to understand myself and my first experience and my subsequent experiences more.
So amazing, and it's exactly what our experience has been. It's like there's like half the people that come that are drawn to the facilitator training are already practitioners. They want another toolkit. You know, they're already into this work, and then there's the other half that are very much like either yeah, I just want this for me, or like I don't know why I'm here. There's people who have signed up for our training who have never even taken a single class with us, but for
Oh,
whatever reason they're there. It's like this calling that they can't explain. I mean, you at least had some experience. You're like, I want to take this a little bit deeper. But what do you remember? Kind of what your experience moving through the facilitator training was like?
so deep. I mean, I remember being in community with other people. I'm still connected to folks that I met inside the facilitator training. I remember even people who weren't in the same facilitator training as me, if I knew them from another little segment like Mora's Spiral and they had taken the training, like I'm still very close to Amanda Joseph, like we were talking yesterday. And so we have similar experiences, even though we weren't in the same kind of like cohort of facilitator training, like we remember similar things and we can talk about those things and connect them to everything that's happening right now in our lives. And so in terms of the actual experience of it, there's such deep days. Like you're diving into so much. I mean, it for the purposes of my own intention of discovering more about myself, it made so much sense to move through the chakras to understand what was happening on all of these different levels, to think about what it means to hold space for one other person, to think about what it means to hold space for two other people, to expand that to think about what it means to hold space for a larger group of people, how I show up in that, what it is to actually hold space and not interrupt. All of those pieces have been. Okay, it's weird to constantly say life changing, but life changing because it seeps over into all of these other parts of my life, and in the ways that I engage with people in my life, with my friends, with my family, and the ways that I show up. And yes, inside breathwork sessions that I'm facilitating, but also inside conversations where sometimes a previous version of me wouldn't have known how to respond to somebody telling me something about their life that they're struggling with. I would have been a little scared and like, oh, I'm not the right person to be telling this to. And because of the facilitator training and because of that training in holding space, I know that I don't actually need to have all of the answers. And I know the value of being able to be present with somebody through something, to the value of bearing witness to something. And it doesn't mean knowing it all. It doesn't mean having all of the resources or tools or frameworks. Although, all those things are fun and, as an academic, are like interesting to me and I can nerd out about them. And they're valuable, but also valuable is our sheer presence. And our ability to just be and be there for someone else.
You're such a gifted communicator. I know you know this, but I just have to acknowledge it. From your speaking to your writing to how you organize and share in a way that connects with people. So thank you for sharing that with the world. And at what point were you like, I know, okay, so this will be coming up in a lot of the podcasts probably, but on the very first day of the facilitator training, you facilitate. We throw you right into the deep end. But
Yes.
so you do have the experience, you, the general participant. And for you specifically, Carolene, when were you like, oh, I do want to facilitate this for other people?
Whew. I think that's like a little hazier response for me. I think after the first day, I thought I can do this for others. I don't know that I was in the space of I'm gonna or I will, but I felt because we were thrown in on that very first day, I felt I'm able to, like I could if I wanted to. And so when I got to that was like the first little, okay, I can do this. And then the more we went through, like the second day, the ex and reflecting on my own experiences and when somebody else was holding space for me, I was like, if I can do this for others, why would I not? Like, if I'm able to do this for other people and am able to provide an experience that is doing for someone what breathwork has done for me, why would I hide that? I grew up in a very religious family, and like the thing that's coming up in my mind right now is like, why would you hide your light under a bushel basket? Like, why would you hide that? Why would you bury your talents? And so after day two, and after being the space being held for me, in addition to holding space for others, I was like, I have to share it, because if I'm able to, why would I not?
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. That was exactly the first time I experienced it, like, oh, I got to bring this to my clients. I got to bring this to the athletes I work with. I want other people to experience what I just experienced. When you think about, okay, I'm facilitating Revelation Breathwork, if you had to kind of teach somebody else or be like, here's the foundational principles of facilitating, what comes forward for you? What are the kind of first things that pop into your awareness?
Presence, being very present with whoever, um, music. That's something that pops up often when I'm talking about when I'm facilitating for someone who's never experienced it before, how different it is that we use music that they recognize, and how I facilitated a session for work the other day, and somebody was like, I've done meditation and I've done sound baths, I've done all of these things, and I've never had anyone use Beyonce on a playlist that in a practice like this before. So I think that is incredibly unique to Revelation Breathwork. Um, so the music, the presence, I think too that we're always incorporating something for people to chew on. And I know that's really loose, but whether it's like an oracle deck that we're reading from, or a book or a text, or a poem that's coming from a really incredible poet who's making us think more deeply, or there's always something in addition to, yes, our presence, but we're like weaving in more wisdom and knowledge that's coming out of this world that we share. So I think that's what I'd say, like the presence, the music, and then the wisdom that is coming from the world we share.
And what do you think gets in the way of presence? Like, that sounds so simple, to be present. What in your experience, gets in the way of your presence?
Oh, that's such a big question. Um, that's so funny because, yeah, it does sound so simple. It sounds so simple to be like, I'll just be present here. But there's so much self-talk and so much going on in the head that I actually think our continued practice breathing as breathers to help create space to be more present helps support us as facilitators, because there's just so much going on in the head, and particularly in our modern day society, how much stimulation we get from our phones and the TV and everything that's happening all around us all the time in our socio-political climate, in our day-to-day with our friends and our family, with our run-ins at the grocery store, that our minds are just always so on. And when they're not on, it feels wrong because they're always so on. But actually, when they're not on like that and overstimulated, that's where we kind of can touch that real presence, and that real depth. I think there's a Chinese proverb that is like, tension is who you think you are, relaxation is who you actually are. Um, and that because of how much stimulation we get all the time, there's always kind of a tension. There's always a tension going on. And so for me, my own meditation practice, my own breathing practice, it was very supportive in creating that space for real presence. Otherwise, the things that get in the way are all this self-talk, the to-do list for tomorrow, the analyzing of the things before, and when it's really bad, the analyzing of myself inside the present moment where I'm actually trying to hold space for this other person and going, am I doing it right? Is this person having a good experience? I wonder what this person is thinking about me in my facilitation right now. Like, when I don't clear that space for myself, it can really interrupt kind of the landscape that I'm trying to hold for the person that I'm facilitating for.
I love that. And share how you would explain, because I think in our world we know what it means, but I think a newer term for a lot of people. This idea of holding space, like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I hold space. Like, what the heck is that? How would you explain that?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Well, I'm gonna make a birth analogy, because I'm pregnant right now. I'm 35 weeks pregnant, so we're getting really close to meeting this baby, and that's also something that serendipitously, like, I was moving through. I moved through the facilitator training, and actually, you just made me remember. At the end of the first one, I remember walking in with a very like, I wanna read my Akashic Records intention is the intention of the like what I wanted out of that first training session, facilitator training. And I remember the end of it, like reflecting, I don't think I'm scared of childbirth anymore. Like it had transformed. And then I got pregnant with my first child, and then now I'm pregnant with my second child. And so the journey of discovering what it is to hold space has been running parallel both inside my breathwork experience and in my holding life. And so when I think about what it is to hold space, because yes, it's kind of a term like it feels abstract, it feels, what does that mean? I think about what it has been for the people on my birth team to hold space for me as I birth. They can't do it for me. They can't birth the baby. They can't feel the contractions. They can't feel any of the surges. They can't understand what is going on inside my body. They can't understand what's going on inside my head. They can't understand what is happening inside my heart space as I move through the experience, the physiological experience of birth, the holistic experience of birth. That they can't do any of that. That's probably the most frustrating for someone like my partner Skylar, who like wants to carry, wants to not just hold the space, but wants to hold me through, wants to hold the pain. But when I think about holding space, we're not taking any of it from the other person. When we're holding space, we're there for the other person. We're allowing that other person to move through it. We are present enough to go, I am right here and you can do this. And something that has come out of my mouth in many of the sessions that I've facilitated, particularly when I notice someone is having an intense experience, is nothing can come that you're not already equipped to navigate. Because I truly believe that no matter what is happening inside a session, that we don't get anything that we're not already have the tools to move through. Nothing can rise in a session that isn't ours to deal with, that isn't ours to navigate through, to push through, to discover. Nothing can surface in us that wasn't already inside us to begin with. And so anything that rises for us in a session rises because it's for us to meet. And so as a facilitator, allowing the other person to recognize this is yours. And you are allowed to feel it. These are your feelings. You're allowed to feel them. Whatever is coming up for you, even though it's challenging, you get to meet that challenge right now. And so when I think about holding space, it is about a person can be going through so much. And as a facilitator, I don't need to know all of those pieces. I don't need to take any of it from them. I just need to be right there with them so that they know that they can move through it themselves.
Mic drop. We're done. That was it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Caroline, just like full body goosebumps. The way that you, not just like what you're saying, but your embodiment of it. And that approach is the most empowering because it's not like, oh, you can't handle this. There's a lot of talk in like certain breathwork circles. It's like, oh, you gotta be careful when you're facilitating. You don't want to re-traumatize someone. And what you just said, it's like, no, that's not possible. What somebody experiences, it's never too much for them to handle. And it's an invitation for them to be with that experience. And how can we as facilitators hold the space, be like, hey, this might be really big and I believe in you and you got this, and lean in, and I'm here with you as you do it. No one else can do it for you and I'm here with you. So yes, this is why you're a master and this is why you are, a leader in this community. Is you walk, you live, you breathe, you are this frequency and this energy, which is so needed in the world right now. So I just want to, thank you. It's awesome.
So I thank you. Thank you and more for the facilitator training that I mean, there's so much in me that I feel like has been unleashed by the facilitator training and breath work. Like I was saying earlier, I was teaching high school English. I was correcting a bunch of commas. Like that was my day to day for so long. And while I've always been in love with words, I think the facilitator training and my experiences with breathwork have helped really unlock like throat chakra stuff. I think it has really helped me find my voice in ways that I that are unexpected and surprising and totally welcome in my life.
When I asked you and I honestly don't remember this, so I'm curious if you remember. When I asked you to be a facilitator in our community, in our membership, where there's only me and I think three other people, and you were one of them, were you like, ooh, I don't know? Were you like, hell yeah? Like, what was because what I'm getting to is you've been facilitating almost every week for 4 years, more than 4 years. So, like, what has that been like from the beginning, and how has that evolved?
Well, I felt a full body yes when you asked me that first time. I was super excited. I think I was surprised because there's so many incredible facilitators that I had met inside the trainings, inside everywhere in all of these different spaces. So I was like, oh, like what about me is being invited into this space? And I felt excited to answer that call and discover what that might be. And it felt I think the other thing is because I do it on every Saturday, every week, like it felt exciting to have a place where I was going to practice no matter what. And, especially at the very beginning when we were still building it and I wasn't sure if somebody was going to show up inside the room with me. But I was going to hit record anyway, and I was going to plan the session anyway. I was going to hold that kind of space anyway. That was exciting to be like, I am going to cultivate my craft and I'm going to figure out how to hold space here. And there are challenges in that, right? Like, especially when you're recording a session, it's like, who is going to listen to this session? Like, how do I hold space for somebody who I'm not even looking at right now? And how do I love somebody who might be listening to this way later on? And something that runs through my mind when I'm facilitating sessions that I learned from you and more in sessions is just like, I love you, peace be with you. I love you, peace be with you, God be with you. Like, and I can wish that upon anyone, no matter what. I don't need to see them. I don't need to know what they look like. I don't need to know their name. But I can love on people and I can wish peace upon them and I can wish God is with them over and over again. And so in terms of the journey from that first full body yes of I absolutely want to do that. The questions in me of like, what about me is being invited here. The invitation to evolve as it went forward. If like the portal has evolved. Like there's so many sessions. Like the library is so full of so much. Like it feels like it doesn't matter what you're working on, you will find something that will help you work through the thing. Whether you're angry or frustrated or wanting to be a little more creative, like it's full of so much that it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves even further because it's so full of so much already right now. And as it's evolved, it has felt like I have evolved in my practice, in who I am as a person, as a human being. And yeah, the journey's been a fun one. It's been a fun one to just discover.
And talking about like the library and the catalog, which I think I've just started claiming it's the best in the world. I do believe it is the best in the world. And a big part is you and what you've been bringing. And it's been, at least on my side, like the perfect marriage of your academic, like as a teacher, as like a lesson planner, and we've already established you're an incredible communicator, and then we've established that your love is infinite and your space holding is just a beautiful consciousness. You have created some of like, and again, this wasn't from, I'm going to call this, maybe I'm coining this phrase, maybe I'm not, a God-dia. It's not an idea, it's a God-dia. And this idea of pairing Revelation Breathwork with themes and different topics, because a lot of it is like, hey, we're just going to breathe. It's like, well, we're breathing too. In your case, you've created a whole series around the book, The Body is Not an Apology. Like you take that teacher, that lesson plan, and then you put it into both teaching and then the breath work to incorporate, embody, release, integrate the concepts, the consciousness of the work from Mr. Rogers, and the creativity. Do a series on Mr. Rogers is incredible. You did a series on I can't remember the name, it was like Conscious Awakening, from literally the A to the Z. Every letter was a different word in like Conscious Awakening. I said The Body is Not an Apology. You're currently doing a series on the book, The Women Who Run with the Wolves. and there's probably some right off the top of my head that I'm forgetting, but they're all so good. You did a whole, I don't even know, 30 class series on the artist way, and then the follow up to the artist way when you talk about creativity. You're Rick Rubin on creativity, his book, The Creative Act, like so many amazing series. And then you did the Black History Month series that you did. There's so much to take a world-class teacher, space holder, and being of love, and then to put it into the content that you have created. It is truly a gift for me and our community. And I think I'm excited and need to do a better job at this of like, how can we leverage the library and like really let people know what is here? Because it's, like you said, there's a one-stop shop for anything personal growth or spirituality. Like anything that you want, shadow work, inner child work, chakra stuff, courage, confidence, creativity, loss, grief, sorrow, like the human experience. You come here and there's something for you, and there's going to be a different teacher with a different style and different take. So I just said a lot, but because I get so excited about this, what has been your experience of like combining your teacher, your lesson plan, and then putting it into, and a lot around books too, like the academic part in a way, or like how can I teach a lesson? Oh man, I probably have to edit that because that was like so unhinged but raw and real. So I'll turn it over to you now.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it, and I hear that. Honestly, and this is, I was starting to get to this earlier, but because of the way that you and Maura create space for facilitators and facilitate the facilitator training, there is this invitation to bring yourself, to bring your own style, to bring who you are, that you're not learning to be just a facilitator, you're learning who are you as a facilitator. And so because of that, inside the facilitator training, there has always been for me an invitation to figure out which parts of me are going to infuse this with something that is specifically me, that I've lived my life like doing X, Y, and Z, in this case, like teaching, writing, like I'll write my own poetry for the sessions at the end of the session. So it's like which pieces of me are being invited to play inside this space. And so I have always felt that invitation even from the first facilitator training. And you know, in the very first one where you like jump in with somebody and you provide the playlist for us and we're really just practicing the space holding part. Even after reflecting upon that one, I was like, ooh, there are things that I can do. There are things that I can weave in here. Like here was the poem that I read, like I can write. Like I can write something, like, and there were a bunch of invitations that emerged from that because you kind of, teaching terms, like you scaffolded it for us, like you showed us little pieces, and then we practiced this little segment, just the space holding part. We practiced how we were going to invite people to the primal scream, and now I think about my own, like what will my invitation sound like to people. And so there's just this welcoming of style, who we are. There's not a suppression of who we are. There is a who are you and who are you going to be as a facilitator? And for me, I've always been an educator. My parents joke around that when I was a toddler, I was like arranging Barbies and teddy bears to teach them. So that's just like been in me for my whole life. And I'm an avid reader. I grew up to become an English teacher. I do professional development for adults today. And so all of that is like present in me as a facilitator because my facilitation is not a separate identity. It is me facilitating. And it's exciting because it feels like a space where I can play in all of those arenas. Like I can bring all of those pieces of me and weave them together inside. It's wild to think about, like the more and more we talk about how life-changing a singular breathwork experience can be, how wild it is that you can weave together so much in a 1 hour commitment of time. That you can drop in and feel the expansiveness of the human experience in 1 hour, and at the end of it go, whoa, all right, I'm gonna drop back into my day and go back into whatever's happening next and be totally changed, and different and evolved in some way. And so I love the invitation to just bring whatever it is that I'm bringing. And all of those things that you named are a bunch of interests of mine. Like I want to know how to live more creatively. Mr. Rogers, especially having a toddler right now, is like, how do I bring that little playfulness? Like how do I wake up my inner child so that I can be more present for the child that I'm raising and present for the child that's inside me, and all of those pieces that I'm actually right now for work building upon a couple of ideas that started with that Black History Month. So like I'm going back into Audre Lorde, I'm going back into James. Well, that part's new, but I'm starting. Maybe I'll do that next Black History Month for Revelation Breathwork, the work of James Baldwin. But all of those pieces are, yes, me creating something to share, but also me continuing my own growth, and me continuing my own exploration of what it is that what it is that I'm discovering, what it is that I'm curious about, how it is that I want to evolve, what my own goals, my own spiritual transformation, and it's just such an exciting thing to be able to curate that in a way that other people can join me for that if they so choose. Um, it's really exciting.
Yeah, you're so good. You're so gifted. It is such a beautiful combination of your natural talents and the skill that you've developed and the thoughtfulness and intention. Yeah, your work is really extraordinary, Caroline, and we are really, I'm grateful, but I know the community is super grateful to have you. So, yeah, I've got a couple more questions. Is there like I don't know if it has to be like a fun story, but is there one either client or attendee or someone else sharing their experience that stands out to you? Like a memorable one, like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few. There are a few that have stood out to me over the years. Okay, let me pick one here. Um, There's one I facilitated a short little thing. It was like a 20 something sample breathwork session at a live music a wellness music festival in San Diego called Shake and Shine. And there was and so people were all on the grass. I was facilitating from the stage. Like we had a really great sound system that was playing the music. And it was an older woman who had grown up in I think I want to say the Soviet Union, and she had never been on a swing. And so after the session, she came to me and she was like, "I there's a swing here on the other side. Like, I can you take a picture of me on the swing when you were when I was when we were in the rest breathing of your session? I realized I'd never been on a swing before, and I really want." To let my inner child be on a swing right now. And she was like tearing up as she was sharing this with me. And of course, I go with her to take a picture of her on this swing. And she just like looks so free, like going on this swing and me taking a picture of her. And again, she's like an older woman who had just never had that opportunity, and like she was thinking, and it was cool that something like a breathwork experience could have her come out of it, even just a short mini one, like a 20-minute one, and go, I'm going to give this experience to myself because of what I just experienced here, laying down on the grass with my eyes closed. I'm going to make a different choice I'm going to notice something different in my environment because of what I just experienced with my eyes closed inside this breathwork session. And then there's another session that there was this young man, and this was when I was facilitating online post my first facilitator training, when we are just doing one-on-one. And he had contacted me and he had lost somebody in his life and was like, I just really need something, so I'm trying anything. And he had moved back in with his mom, and he was like, I don't even know why I'm here. I just want to try something. And he told me that his intention was to allow love back in because he had felt himself like building up a ton of walls. And so we I create a session for him. I meet with him, and again, he had moved back with his mom. So at the very beginning, I'm explaining the primal scream to him, and he was like, "Wait a second, let me text my mom that I'm like that I'm it might be loud in here." And I was like, "Okay, go ahead, text your mom. You could go tell her if you want." He was like, "No, it's fine. I'll do it right now." And I had told him to let everything be part of the experience, whatever happens, to allow that to be part of what the experience was going to be for him, and that it all was going to be okay. And when we get to the primal scream part, he lets it out, like he goes for it. And his mom rushes into the room and is like, "Are you okay?" And like goes straight for her son and holds her like this 20 something year old man in her arms. And at first I watch him resist it and go like, "Mom, I told you I was doing this thing." And then it was as if he remembered his intention was to let love back in. And I watched on Zoom as this man like melted into his mom's hug. And it just was such a that one stands out to me so much because there was like another physical person who entered the experience, which I've not seen that ever since. But that this like 20 something year old man was like, "No," and then I just watched his mom hold him as he cried. And like how beautiful that was and how vulnerable that was, and watching the resistance melt, watching the "I told you I was doing this. Oh my God, this is totally my intention. Oh my God, I'm right here. I am going to let myself be held." Um, I that experience like still sits with me.
I'm getting emotional just listening to that because I know the courage that it takes, right, to let the walls down in those moments to make that choice to soften is can sometimes be the scariest thing. So, such a beautiful story. Oh my goodness. Thank you. What would you say to somebody who's like on the fence about the facilitator training, but they're like, it's not the right time, or the money, or I don't know if I can take off those days? Like, of course, there's like legitimate things, but like we know when we're kind of, trying to talk ourselves out, or we're kind of not making excuses can seem harsh, but like there's resistance. Let's put it that way. What would you say to somebody who's on the fence?
I would say, why are you still thinking about it? Like, explore that. Like, what's keeping you on the fence right now? Because something's calling you to this. What is that? What is that made of? What's the texture of that? Because maybe you could tease apart, like, okay, maybe it's logistically not the right time, but maybe I could plan ahead and do it there. But there's something that's calling you if you're thinking about it. If it's still on your mind, if it's still in your head, then there's something for you inside this thing. There's something to be explored. So I would say, what is that piece that's calling you inside? And to just kind of tease apart a little bit, like, I- and honor that piece that's wanting to explore. I know again for me, I was a high school English teacher. I had no idea what I was gonna do with it. Like I didn't have any like foresight of I'm gonna facilitate for Revelation Breathwork inside the live like inside the portal. I didn't know that that was coming. I didn't know that I was gonna facilitate for these like mini wellness festivals. I didn't know that was coming. I didn't know that I would be able to facilitate sessions like I did for that young man. I didn't know that was coming. None of that was like in my consciousness when I signed up for the session for the facilitator training. The only thing that was in me was that there's something for me in here. I'm going to follow that and see where it leads me. So I didn't know where it was going, but I did feel this pull, and I went, okay, let me follow the pull right now. And if it's like, okay, the pull doesn't feel super, super strong right now, but then it gets stronger the next time around, then listening to that too. Like if something is like magnetizing you closer and closer and closer, then maybe it's kind of time to take the leap there. And I think ask the questions you need to ask. Like, find me on Instagram. Like, I'm happy to talk about my experience. Like, ask the questions that you need to ask of people. I'm sure you and Maura will answer the questions that people need to answered too. But if you have questions about it, like, ask them, so that you aren't navigating through that by yourself.
It's really, really wise and supportive. How can we find you on Instagram and follow you and be more in your world?
We live in Eden on Instagram. I think about that concept all the time too, that I think we're still here. I think we're still in the Garden of Eden, and sometimes we're just too busy looking at the snake. There's so much magic, there's so much paradise right here, where we are present right now. And so that's me on Instagram. And then you could find me on Saturday mornings inside Revelation Breathwork, 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard. I'm there and always doing something a little different, and it's been such a gift to meet people inside that hour over the years. Like, it's cool to have somebody from Sweden and from Texas and from, like, all in one's all in one space on Saturday mornings. The thing that comes to my mind sometimes when I always ask people where they're breathing from, I'm like, wow, we're wrapping the whole world with healing and love. Like, from these like different satellites everywhere, we're breathing and healing together, and we're wrapping the world with it.
I have a bonus question. Are
Yeah.
you available? So you have a background or childhood that it was based in, let's say, Christianity, and yet there's also like, how would you explain or share with somebody the difference between like religion and spirituality, or like we can weave in these concepts and they all kind of fit together? Because I think a lot of people, a fair number of people in our community, would say something like, oh, I'm a recovering Catholic, or like, I used to be religious but I'm not anymore, but like I'm looking for something else and this feels right. Like, can you? And I also think there's a lot of value in religion for people. So like, I'm just curious your own personal experience.
That's a great question. So I grew up very Catholic. My mom still goes to church every single day. Not every Sunday. My mom goes to church every single day. So my mom is very Catholic. In my Actually, yesterday I was talking to my daughter and I was like, "Hey, what do you want to get Loli for Christmas?" She was like, "I think we should get her a statue of Jesus because she really loves Jesus." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And my dad was actually studying to become a priest when he met my mom. So my dad also very, very Catholic, and the Philippines is like the only Catholic country in Asia anyway. So I grew up in a I went to Catholic school from kindergarten through 12th grade. I met my husband in ninth grade English class at a Catholic school. He was the only Lutheran in our classes. So, like, there was. Anyway, so when I think about religion and I think about spirituality, there are a couple things that come to my mind here. I definitely have been through the I'm I'm recovering from this, that I've experienced like I've experienced things that I don't want to experience inside this sphere of religion. And actually, it's timeline wise, right before we got quarantined, right before I came into the facilitator journey and I had my first experience with the Revelation Breathwork, Skylar, my husband, had a work trip to the Bay Area, and and I went with him, and we went and hiked in Muir Woods for. I had never done that hike, and we were walking around there together. And I had this thought drop in my head as I was looking at these trees and how tall they were, and as we were walking together and like the silence of this forest. I was like, I see God here. Like, I see, like, God is here. And I had the thought in my head, if people can feel this in a church, let them feel it in a church. It doesn't matter to me where they feel this. If they feel it in a mosque or a synagogue or a temple, if they feel it by the ocean, or when they're holding their child, or when they're sitting in silence on their grass in their yard, or on the balcony of the whatever the little brownstone, they're sitting in New York City. Wherever they can feel this, let them feel it. So for me, I've kind of let go of a lot of my anger toward religion, although I understand it and I have felt it and I know it. And now I'm kind of in the place of wherever people can find God, let them find God. And if the word God is triggering and we want to use a different kind of word, then it's not about the language of it. It's about that sensation of there's something bigger than me. I'm not alone. I'm not by myself. I'm not just like an accident. I'm part of something bigger. So wherever people can feel that sensation, let them feel it there.
Amen. That was so beautiful, Caroline. I'm so glad I asked that question. And I'm gonna get greedy and ask one more, and you can be like, "No, I gotta go." Because I'm curious, and I just feel like it's gonna be really important for somebody to hear this, and maybe important for you to tell it. Your aunt, who you were really close with, passed away recently. What has that been like for you? What experiences, if any, because not people don't really talk about this. Like, have you had visits from your aunt? Like, are you still communicating with your aunt? Do you experience her coming in either when you're facilitating or when you're breathing? Like, what's that journey been like?
Yeah. Ooh, a really intense one. A really intense one. So the day that I found out my aunt passed away, I got a text from my mom who couldn't even call me because my mom was crying herself and couldn't talk um, at 6 a.m. and that my aunt had passed. And then at 6 p.m. on that same day, I was staring at a positive pregnancy test. And so in the same like 12 hours, I was thinking about death and thinking about life um and it was a lot. And actually this is extremely connected to what I'm doing at Revelation Breathwork right now because at that time I was reading Women Who Run with the Wolves, and the section of Women Who Run with the Wolves that I was on was the introduction area of the life death life cycle. And the idea that after that we've been conditioned to believe that after death is more death. But the truth of the matter when we look at nature is that after death is always more life. An apple rots and the seeds plant into the earth and then they grow a new tree and then they generate even more apples. And so after death is not more death, after death is more life. Incidentally, my aunt passed a few days after Easter. So there was also this connection to Christianity and resurrection and after death being again more life. I think is probably the deepest way for me to integrate a lot of those lessons of after death is more life. And the way that my aunt has been appearing to our family is as a hummingbird. Like these hummingbirds come. My parents went to go help my uncle clean out his apartment with my aunt. And they were with her children and with her husband, and they brought their van. They had all like they were packing the cars with stuff because they were helping my uncle move in with my cousin. And this hummingbird just comes and just like situates itself on a car. And you know, hummingbirds, they're kind of like, "Meow." And this hummingbird just stays and stays. And there are these videos of my family, like this hummingbird just stays. And then I was at my house and I didn't go to that trip. And I had taken off a couple days from work, and I had a colleague from work call me, and she's the evaluations and impact, so she works on surveys and all of these things, and she's amazing. And she calls me and she goes, "Hey, I had a dream about you," and she didn't know that my aunt had passed. She was like, "I had a dream about you. I just felt like I needed to tell you about it. And this morning, there's like a nest above my door, and there's a hummingbird in it. And she had no idea about the hummingbird, and I was like, it's so weird that my evaluations person would come to me talking about a hummingbird as my parents are experiencing this hummingbird with my uncle at the house. So she's appeared in so many ways. And I think for me, this the life death life cycle lesson is one of the largest pieces of that, of what I'm learning from my aunt's passing. And in addition to after death being more life, like where does that life go? And for me, it's like she lives on inside me. And in more ways than one, even the apple analogy. So I found out I was pregnant that day, and then we found out that her son's wife was pregnant, and then my other cousin was pregnant. So in the wake of my aunt's passing, who she's my auntie Nell is like a life force of anyone who knows her or knew her. Like she's just a force of nature herself. There are three children entering this world in the wake of her passing. One came in September, the other came just last week, and then my baby's coming in December. And we didn't know that at that time, but it feels inevitable. It feels like it makes total sense that when she would pass, that our family would also welcome three new souls onto the planet.
Wow. So beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for being
Thank you.
here. Oh my gosh, for being here, not just here today, but like for being here for us, for you, for your family, for the people that come. If anyone hears this, come join us if you're not already in the community, and come to a Saturday Carolene class. Your soul will thank you. And yeah, is there anything else you want to share? I mean, you've been so generous with your time, and I'm so excited to share you and this message and frequency with the world. You're the best. I love you. I
You're the
appreciate
best.
you. I'm so grateful for you, and glad that we had this time.
Thank you. Thank you.